everyone, this is my first video. May not be professional, but we're going to get better as time goes on, so bear with me. I basically want to show you something that is pretty simple, but a lot of people may not know it, but there's probably a lot of videos that tell you about it. I'm going to put a piece of sheetrock in this area right here, and I have an outlet down here, and I have to cut the height. So what I want to show you is how to make measurements from the right spots so you don't make a mistake. For instance, if I measure from the floor to the box over here because it's simple and close, the problem I'm going to have is I'm going to raise this off the floor a ½ inch. So if I make my measurements exact and I go to lift it, my hole's going to be wrong. So what I want to do is I want to measure it from the ceiling, because that's where I'm definitely going to push it up to, and from this right side because I'm going to push it into this corner. So now if you take your measurements from here and here, you really can't be wrong because that's where the sheetrock's going to rest. So I'll show you what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this outlet off, because you don't want to cut the hole around the outlet while it's in. And also make sure your electric is off so you don't have any problems. And what I usually do is I pull it out. I just turn it a little sideways so my sheetrock will be able to slip around it. Then I'll start taking my measurements. I'll go from the right side, which we know the sheetrock is definitely going to hit, and I'll take my measurements. I'll measure 11 1/4, and I'll write it on the side. 13 1/2, and I'll write it over here on the side. Now I have to go from the ceiling. That's where we're definitely going to hit with the sheetrock. And I'll measure to the box. If you notice there's ear over here, I don't include the ear right now. What I'll do is I'll measure to the top of this, which is 62 1/2 to 65 3/4. So 62 1/2 to 65 3/4. Then what I'll do is once I make my square on the sheetrock, I will just saw this out with the keyhole saw so that when my sheetrock goes over it, the ears of this outlet will put pressure on the sheetrock and it'll sit nice and steady, nice and solid, we'll say. All right, so there's no holes, nothing we have to fill in with compound, and it'll be a nice fit. All right, now what I want to do is measure from the floor to the ceiling to get my height to cut the sheetrock. So I have about 77. So I'm going to take like a ½ inch off. I'll make it 76 1/2. And I'll just check over here just to make sure. So over here, I have, excuse me, 76. So I'll make it 76 1/2 overall, my height. All right. Now we're going to come over to the sheetrock. I'm going to cut the 76 1/2 first. I have a bad tape measure. My big one's upstairs. So 76 1/2. I'll make a mark. This is a sheetrock square that we use to make straight lines. You either could make a line with a pencil, or you can just cut it with a knife. So I'm using the square now to cut the sheetrock, make it a little bit easier. All you have to do is score it, hold it with my foot so it doesn't move. Then I'll snap it. Now I have the height I need. And now I will make the cut piece my bottom. It's probably not that perfect. So I'll put that at the bottom. I'll flip this up, see how it fits first before I take any measurements. It looks good. Now I will take the measurements I took before, and I will transfer them onto my piece. Now remember, we measured from the ceiling down because that's where it's going to touch. So the measurements were 62. So I estimate about the area that it may be in, figure around here. I'll make 2 marks for my 62. And I got 65 3/4. I'll make 2 marks. Then I'll go from the right side, which is the side that we're going to butt this one up against. So we got 11 1/4. And we have 13. Now what I'll do is get a straight edge. I'll use this piece of wood. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'll just connect all my lines. This I can just do by eye. It's not a big deal. I'll probably have to trim it again anyway. That should be my box. So now I'll get my saw. My old-fashioned saw. And I'll just push it in nice. And with this saw, you don't have to kill yourself. You go nice and easy and fast. And it cuts much better when you go fast and easy. That should be my hole. We shall see. Then what I'm going to do, I mean, this may not be the right spot, but I'm going to make those little notches for where that screw is going to wind up going in. So I don't break my sheetrock trying to push it in. So we'll see if that's right. I probably have to trim it a little bit. We'll see now. So now what I'll do is I'll put it in place. And then I'm going to have to lift it up. So let me see. Just hold that if you can. Thank you. And I'll use this to lift it in place and see how I am. A little bit off. So I'll just trim. Alright, so what I did was I trimmed around the outlet. And now I'm going to put the screws back in, and you'll see that I left room for the ears, so it puts pressure on sheetrock. And there's not that many holes that I have to patch. I'm making the hole super big. So let me get this screw in here, if I can find the hole. That will do nice and easy. And that should be it for this. Now the cover should cover everything there. We don't have to patch anything. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make lines to put my screws in, or you could do it by eye, whatever you feel like you want to do. But if you want to do it with like a chalk line, you make marks on the floor like I did here, where my studs are, and up at the ceiling I made a couple marks. And you can get yourself a chalk line. This, and just put it at the bottom. Go up to your mark up here, make a little line, do the same thing over here, and make another line. And if you're not too good at putting screws in by eye, this will help you until you get good enough to do it. You don't make too many holes that you have to patch. So you just start, putting them in, 6 to 10 inches apart, if anything. Sometimes I like to put 2 next to each other. So that'll give a bigger surface that will hold in one area so the screws won't pop through. So basically, that's what I kind of do when I hang sheetrock. You don't want to make the screw go in too far. You just want to break the paper a little bit. That's it. If you go in too far, it's not really holding much. And it's a little bit harder to compound. Then you wind up getting like a whole lump of compound that's sticking out of the hole. And then you gotta, when it dries, you got a bump sticking out. You gotta deal with that. So basically, that's it. I'm gonna put the rest of the screws in here, and then I'm gonna move on to my next one.